My name is Natalie Lowrey. I'm a graphic designer and web designer, but I'm also an environmental defender committed to environmental justice. I've been working for over a decade as a mining campaigner, mainly in a voluntary capacity with various organisations, community groups and Indigenous communities in Australia and internationally. Last week I was detained in Kuantan, Malaysia for 6 days in a concrete cell with fluoro lights and camera surveillance for 24 hours each day. I had little more than my purple police lockup uniform on, which I was required to wear. Handcuffed every time I left my cell, I was denied phone, pen, paper, soap, towel and pillow. My only comfort in detention was the up to 20 other women who were locked up, not as convicted criminals but as suspects. I was released last Friday. I've been overwhelmed by the support for my release. The solidarity throughout last week kept my spirits strong while I was detained. And there are many people I have to thank. My special and heartfelt thanks go to the people of Malaysia that rallied behind me, the hundreds that came out to the vigils across the country in support of my release, the 34 Malaysian non-government organisations and groups that came together and urged authorities to release me, the dedicated support of Wong Tak and Seek Ping and all the members of Himpunan Hijau, Mr Tan and Save Malaysia Stop Lynas for their supportive and generous support. To all the people in the street after my release who came up, shook my hand, hugged me and thanked me. To the Kuantan police officers who were in charge of my case, who treated me with respect and dignity throughout my detainment and worked hard to speed up the process. To the local politicians who were my bailers for my release, MP Fauzi Adwalman for Indira Malota, where the lamp is situated, and state politician Lee Rhiannon. And to my amazing legal team that acted pro bono and whom are ready for the worst case scenario for me potentially to be charged and to going to jail. In Australia, I have to thank my friends, my family and my colleagues that rallied together, organised snap actions in Melbourne, Sydney, Perth, Alice Springs and Darwin and other solidarity support. I know that it was really hard for many of you, as most of the information you were getting via media before you were getting from my support team. So I thank you for your patience and your solidarity throughout the week. Thanks also to Green Senator Lee Rhiannon for being there even in early morning calls at ridiculous times and following up on whatever support her and the Greens could do in the push for my release and my safe travel home. And thanks also to all the international colleagues and friends, especially Friends of the Earth International and Friends of the Earth Asia Pacific, for the quick response and getting a petition going and networking across our member groups across the world. And last but not certainly, I want to thank two people that were my support crew for the whole week. And that's my co-campaigner for Stop Lynas, Tully McIntyre, and my very close friend Damien Baker. They worked tirelessly all week with very little sleep, having to liaise between lawyers, between media, between Malaysian community and everyone back home in Australia. And they put my well-being first the entire time. There are no words that can fully express my gratitude for the frontline support that both Tully and Damien gave. Do I regret attending 622 shut down Lynas, where over 1,000 Malaysians across the country converged at the Lynas Advanced Material Plant in Gibeng, Kuantan? Do I regret taking non-violent direct action by peacefully settling down alongside other Malaysians at the police line, resulting in my arrest and detainment for 6 days? No, I have no regrets for my act of solidarity with my brothers and sisters in Malaysia. They moved me so much that day on the 22nd of June. In fact, I've never been so moved before to see so much passion from all these peoples of walks of life in Malaysia who are standing together as a movement, the Himpunan Hijau Green Assembly movement, a movement made up of local people and people across Malaysia, everyday people, businessmen, lawyers, doctors, mothers, dads, grandparents, children, accountants, veterinarians, chefs, retirees, artists and so many more everyday people that are making a stand, sacrificing their daily lives to stop Lynas from operating in Malaysia. I knew 3 years ago that this issue wasn't just a Malaysian issue, it was also an Australian issue and an international issue. As Australian citizens and residents, it is our responsibility to hold Australian corporations accountable for the impacts of their developments and operations in other countries. As an international community, we must start considering the impacts of rare earth refining and looking at world's best practice to contain and deal with the waste and move towards alternatives, including urban mine and the recycling of rare earths, especially that rare earths are used in so many green technologies. I was originally drawn to the campaign 3 years ago from a friend who's an Australian citizen but was born in Kuantan. She rang me very distressed to tell me that Lynas had been given a green light to build the world's largest rare earth refinery in her hometown. There had been no consultation with local community near the Lynas Advanced Material Plant, of which 700,000 people live within a 25-kilometre radius and some 30,000 within a 5-kilometre radius. Simply put, Lynas has no social licence to operate in Malaysia. Over the past 3 years, the Stop Lynas campaign in Australia has actively supported and shown solidarity with the hundreds and thousands of Malaysians who are opposed to the Lynas rare earth refinery. 1.2 million Malaysians have already signed a petition demanding Lynas shut down its plant, clean up its waste and leave Malaysia. The Stop Lynas campaign focuses on the issues of rare earth processing, the waste produced and the disastrous effects it can have on human health, water systems and agricultural lands. A serious concern with rare earth processing refining are the radioactive substances and major toxic materials released into the environment. Radioactive materials in particular cannot be seen, they cannot be touched and they cannot be smelt. Yet Lynas refused to produce a detailed environmental impact assessment and still has no long-term permanent waste plan for the radioactive waste it's creating. Lynas shares continue to plummet and shareholders continue to be angered by their lies and disinformation. In Australian finance news this week, Lynas stocks were seen as one of the worst three in 2014, along with Whitehaven Coal and Paladin Energy. Standing to risk of insolvency, the company yesterday announced that it would be moving its head office to Malaysia and would be cutting jobs to cut costs. So who's going to be responsible to clean up Lynas' mess in Malaysia if the financial crisis they're currently facing means they fold and they have to shut down their plant? Will Australia take responsibility for the mess that Lynas has created? Lynas Corporation, along with the Australian and Malaysian governments, should take full responsibility in cleaning up the waste at the Lynas rare earth refinery in Malaysia. If it is shut down, whether the shutdown is caused through public pressure, legal and or political will, environmental disaster, or due to Lynas' continuing financial downfall and risk of insolvency. The Stop Lynas campaign calls on the Australian government to implement policies around the mining and processing of rare earths, and for all and any future rare earths mined in Australia to be processed here and the waste dealt with here in country, according to world's best practice. Malaysians' lives are just as valuable as Australians' lives. There is no way Lynas would have been able to operate this plant in Australia, so why are they allowed to in Malaysia? Current and future generations in Malaysia depend on the continuing solidarity between Australians and Malaysians to call into account not only Lynas Corporation, but both the Australian and Malaysian governments for allowing such a toxic development to be approved. The Stop Lynas campaign in Australia will continue to educate and take action in solidarity with the 1.2 million Malaysians demanding Lynas to shut down, clean up its waste and leave Malaysia. In my hand is an eviction notice from 1.2 million people that I will be hand-delivering to the Lynas office up here today, and I'll be requesting the new director, Amanda Lacaze, to come and get this eviction notice from all the Malaysians.